Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Geek-Minded Fools. My name's Graham.
And I'm Scott.
We'll kick off, as usual, with a visit to Scott in the monkey farm.
Hey, partners, it's time to see what Scott's doing down on his monkey farm.
Hello, sir. Welcome. Do come in.
Thank you.
As always, you know the rules.
Yes,
Hands
I
by
do.
your sides, in your pockets.
Yeah.
No fiddling.
Who,
Maybe a little fiddling. What have I got for you this week? I will just firstly inform you that I have come down with some sort of space virus.
Oh,
I am a little bit ill.
I'll keep my distance.
Keep your distance. I think I've actually got what caused the zombie outbreak in Night of the Living Dead.
Okay,
I think that's what it is.
good to know.
So, you know, you heard it here first. I could be the patient zero.
The man in the graveyard.
Every possibility. That could be me. Bill Hinsman.
Yes, there you go.
Him. What have I got for you this week?
Well,
I've got some remake news on two tips.
Oh,
Two tips of remake news.
you leave your tips out of it, young man.
And I've got some kind of music news. And you'll understand why I say kind of music when we get to it. So first off, I don't know if you heard the rumblings
About the junglins.
The rumblings in the junglins about a possible Exorcist remake.
I haven't, no.
You haven't?
It's the first I've heard of this.
Okay. Well, let me first start by saying that can go fuck itself, okay? Because you can't remake The Exorcist.
Well, you can remake anything. The question is not whether you can, but whether you should.
Yeah.
And you should not remake The Exorcist.
You shouldn't. So this is kind of like a three-tiered bit of news, really.
The first one of which is currently running down your cheek.
Yeah. There was rumours that Morgan Creek were selling off the rights to X amount of movie properties that they had. I won't bother going into the other ones that were involved because they're not important to this story. William Friedkin then came out and basically said that Morgan Creek really actually only have the rights to the, and these are his words, not mine, the so-called sequels.
Okay.
I love it when people say that. So-called sequels. They are sequels, you know. Whether or not they're shit or not, it doesn't matter. They are the sequels.
Yeah.
But then, very interestingly, Morgan Creek came out with a little tweet saying, just for the record, we will never attempt to remake The Exorcist.
It's funny, I can't hear you say Morgan Creek without thinking of Morgan Freeman.
I know. I'm the same. Every time I'm
isn't it?
saying it, I'm thinking, I'd like to think we were remaking The Exorcist, but we're not. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of...
We'll gloss over that impression.
I think it sounds better with the space virus, definitely.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so it's just funny how fickle the world of Hollywood can be, isn't it? I mean,
Yes, very much so.
One day there's news that, there's going to be a possible remake. Next day it's like, no, we are never going to remake this, guys. Don't worry. So, I mean, it's good news for me because you know how much I love The Exorcist. It is a great, great movie. We had a great night when we went to see it at Somerset House,
Yes,
didn't we?
indeed.
Which
We
was
did.
an awesome night, which I think we've spoken about before
We
on the
have.
other pods. But yeah, that's really just a bit of news to highlight the fickle finger of Hollywood.
Okay, so it's almost no news.
Yeah, well, no news is good news in this case, eh?
Well, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to some possibly... I don't know whether you can call it music news. You'll understand when I give you the news, okay?
Here is the news.
Sam Smith.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pikey, doesn't he? Do you not think that sounds like a pikey's name? Sorry if we have got any pikey listeners. I would doubt we have. But yeah, Sam Smith released the new Bond theme,
Yes.
which is called The Writing's on the Wall. Have you heard it?
I have.
It's shit, isn't it?
It is crap.
It's
yes,
fucking
it's
awful.
terrible. It's really bad.
Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the Adele one, but I mean,
The Adele one sounded like a Bond theme. The real bad one was the Alicia Keys and Jack White one. That was an absolute abortion.
which again, I didn't mind either.
What's wrong? Get out.
I know.
Hang
But, I mean,
on, no, we're in your monkey farm and I'm telling
exactly,
you to get out.
exactly.
That's how angry
so
I am.
stay in. I mean, the fact of the matter is that before we go over the actual piece of music itself, one thing I picked up on in the news that I read, they were saying this is the first Bond theme to be sang by a male solo artist since Tom Jones.
Okay.
Now, sorry, but didn't Chris Cornell do?
He did.
So is he not a female? Sorry,
The female.
Is he not a solo male artist?
He is a solo male artist.
So,
yes,
so what the fuck is that bit of news?
That's
then?
bollocks.
That's
It's
bad
bad.
news, isn't it?
That's
That
absolute
is
bollocks.
poor news.
Yes.
Poor news. So I'm calling out. I won't call out which magazine I read that in, but you're shit, basically. And I really like the Chris Cornell one as well. I think that's another good
superb.
tune.
It's one of the finest
Is
ones
it,
of
what's
recent
it called?
memory. You know my name.
You know my name. Yeah, good track. Now Sam Smith said in an interview something which I think he's going to go on to regret. He said, "Yeah, this piece only took me 20 minutes to write."
Yeah.
Yeah, no fucking shit, Sam.
Indeed.
It's just appalling.
It's just, I don't know.
It's absolutely appalling. I mean, musically, it is quite nice and it is very Bond-esque, but it's just when he warbles over it. And he sounds like, I don't know, was there a band called, was it Daniel and the Johnstons or something like
There
that?
was a band called that, yes.
Do you reckon he was a real sang like that, didn't he?
Couldn't tell you one of their songs, I have to say.
That's how successful they were.
Yes.
But this is possibly set to be the first Bond #1, they reckon. Because it's, it has split opinion rather. Some people have liked it, some people haven't. That's always going to happen with everything, I know. But I can't imagine a world where some piece of dirge like this goes to #1. Not that I follow the charts, but...
So no Bond theme has ever gone to #1
apparently
before.
so.
So A View to a Kill by Duran Duran in 1985, one of the biggest bands in the world at that time, never went to #1.
I don't know, we'll have to check that out.
We will have to check that out.
We'll have to check that out. Maybe we'll pick that up in the next episode, because right now this space virus is just coursing through me.
Yes.
And I basically need to have some
Just
time alone in
sapping
the
your
monkey.
strength.
But we will check that out.
Yes.
I mean, on a more amusing note, I must say some of the people who have disliked the Sam Smith Bond theme have come up with some very amusing names for Sam Smith. I like the fact that they've called him the pasty-faced Sam Smith. Not pasty-faced, pasty-faced.
I don't dislike Sam Smith, I just think it's a crap song.
He's an odd-looking man.
A lot of his songs, me over anybody should not be judging people on their looks.
Well, funny you say that, actually, because one of our newer listeners, Holly, said that she was so wondering what you looked like after listening to us for. She's now listened to pretty much every episode,
okay.
And she said apparently you do not look anything like you sound.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, Writings on the Wall, the song that took 20 minutes to write, and boy does it show.
Yes.
Finally this week, Nicholas Winding Refn, Nicholas Windrush Roofrack, Nicholas Winnebago Rucksack.
Okay.
You know of whom I speak?
No.
He is director of Drive.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, he also did an absolutely fucking fantastic trilogy called the Pusher trilogy,
right,
which stars a very young Mads Mikkelsen. If you haven't seen it, please do watch it because it is very good. It's a good trilogy.
So therefore, this guy also directed God only knows why they made this film.
What was it called? What is that? That's the one that Mark likes.
Only God Forgives.
Only Cod and Chips. That's
Yes.
it. That's the one. Well, he is producing a remake of one of my favourite 80s movies.
Go on.
Maniac Cop.
Oh.
It looks set to be directed by a chap called John Hyams, who also directed what I feel is probably one of the better kind of follow-ons from the 80s movies. He directed a movie called Universal Soldier Regeneration. Now, I know, obviously, these films are not something we normally talk about, and I'm no great fan...
With good reason.
I'm no great fan of the Universal Soldier movies, but Regeneration was actually quite a good movie. It was really well shot, and some of the action in it was very, very good. It's never going to win any awards, but he definitely showed that he had some good directing chops. The thing with Maniac Cop is, it is such a terrible film. It's a great film,
and that's why you love it.
And that's why
you
I love
are
it,
a huge
yeah.
fan of course, Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell's in it.
And
Tom Atkins as well, who was in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
And who's the bloke who died recently?
I can never remember his name. It completely escapes me. I want to say Adrian Zmed, but I know it's not, because that's the guy from fucking Bachelor Party.
And TJ Hooker.
But it is a name of that. I think it's something like something Tazar.
Yes.
But
big chin guy.
Yeah. Fabulous yes. Actor. But he's got one of those names that you just I can never quite peg. As I say, the thing about Maniac Cop, it is such a terrible film. It's good, and I think I'd like to see.
Although I disagree.
Well, you think it's a good film, but no, you just think it's shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It's got a great tagline as well. You have the right to remain silent forever. Let's see what Nicholas Wanksack Rufflehouse can do with this as a producer, and John Hyams. As I say, he's already shown he's got pretty good directing chops. I think this could turn out to be quite fun.
Second use of the word chops. Repetition.
Nah, fuck off my monkey farm, I'll do what I want. Like that, and that's my buzzer. Don't fucking touch it. Yeah, that's right. Do you know what? Quite frankly, I've had enough of your fun pokery for this week, so don't let the door hit you on the way out, my friend.
Okay, well, I'm reopening the monkey farm because I have a piece of news for you.
Fine.
Yep, indeed.
I will allow it.
Now, I'm aware that a lot of our listeners have noticed that when I chip something into the monkey farm, it does normally kill people.
Has a knock-on effect, doesn't it?
It does. A very negative knock-on effect. But the only reason I'm bringing this up, and this will probably be the only piece of monkey farm news that I'll ever chip in myself, is because the person involved is already dead.
Oh, that's fine then. Well, maybe it could have the reverse and we could bring them back to life.
They could.
Okay.
Be reanimated. Does the name Bill Finger mean anything to you?
Yes, it does. Did he not have something to do with Batman?
He did.
Yes.
He did.
He
But
was...
for many, many, many years was uncredited.
He was the creator of the Joker?
Yes.
Ah, how fucking good am I?
Batman was always credited as being created by Bob Kane, and
Indeed.
Bob Kane's name has appeared on all the movies and all the TV shows and what have you as the creator of Batman. But particularly over the last 10 years or so, I would say there's been a big push to try and get Bill Finger properly recognised as a co-creator of Batman, being that when Bob Kane came up with the initial design of Batman, he had a lot of red on his costume, and it was basically Superman in a mask, in a little mask around his head.
Yeah.
And what Bill Finger brought to the table was he sort of took Bob Kane's designs and said, right, okay, forget the mask, I think we need a cowl on him. Yeah. Forget the wings, we need a cape on him. Also, we need gloves and we need all this red taken off because that isn't going to scare anybody. Yeah. And he effectively put together the Batman costume that was known by everybody. He scripted the first two appearances of Batman, obviously Detective Comics 27 and 28, both fully scripted by Bill Finger. As you say, also created the Joker as well as a lot of other Bat villains, but also came up with a story of Robin's parents being circus acrobats who were killed.
Right.
So a huge part of the Batman mythos was created by Bill Finger. He's finally getting the recognition because he's now in both season 2 of the Gotham TV series, but also Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. He's going to be co-credited alongside Bob Kane.
Isn't that lovely?
As being the co-creator of Batman. So it has been a long time coming, but Bill Finger, you are finally being recognised for your fine work in creating one of the greatest superheroes out there. So hats are well and truly off to you, sir. Well done, Mr. Finger.
A salute to Bill Finger.
Very much.
Excellent stuff. You were very well behaved there.
Well, thank you.
In the monkey farm.
Now fuck off.
I may let you. I may let you do another piece another time.
No, it's never going to happen.
But it can only be about dead people.
Indeed.
Right, come on, get out.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
And now we shall move on to this week's Quick Hits.
Quick Hits.
Right, now I can't remember whose turn it is first this week, but it doesn't bloody matter.
Doesn't matter!
Because we're sharing one.
We're sharing a quick hit. That's a quick hit, not a quick shit. We are sharing a quick hit.
We are doing one between us. It's obviously only happened once before with Spaced.
Yes,
when
indeed.
you kind of took over the whole thing and we shared it. But we're actually going into this one together. And that's because last week we went to see something pretty damn incredible that we've spoken of before in this very goddamn podcast.
We did. I like to think we actually caused it.
Well, you did, definitely.
Yeah.
As I have the power to kill, you have the power to resurrect.
Yeah, indeed. We, sir, on the 24th of September, witnessed the 20th anniversary jukebox tour of the marvellous Bluetones.
Fantastic. One of our favourite bands, and probably, along with the Foo Fighters, sort of one of the constants that's gone throughout our friendship.
Yeah, very much so.
You know, two bands we've absolutely loved. I mean, a Bluetones song, one that actually played, and it's the first time we've seen it in a long, long time, so I'm really chuffed about that, was very much our pissed sing-along song, wasn't it? Which is 4-Day Weekend.
It's our sexless marriage anthem.
Indeed. Whenever we'd been out for a few beers, we would always sort of stumble back to mine and put that on full blast, piss off the neighbours, and just sing it to the absolute top of our lungs.
Indeed.
Which was fantastic. But of course, going back to one of our very early episodes, you'd chosen as one of your quick hits their second album, Return to the Last Chance Saloon, and just threw in at the end. And Bluetones, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are, please will you reform and do some more gigs. And then about a month later,
they only bloody well did.
They bloody well were.
They bloody well did.
As you say, for their 20th anniversary. And what a show it was.
What a show. 21 tracks.
Yes.
20 of their own. One absolute legendary cover version.
Fantastic.
A fantastic cover version. But they pretty much covered all the bases, didn't they?
Well, it was pretty much just singles heaven, wasn't it? It was just across the board. They just banged out everything that they had released in single format. And just from start to finish, I mean, talk about a band, particularly one obviously that split up in 2011, hadn't gigged for a while, hadn't put out any new music for a while. just up there, just having an audience eating out of their hand.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that very early on I realised how much I've missed was, as a frontman, Mark Morris is a funny fucker.
Oh, he's a very, very, very engaging guy.
He's hugely entertaining. The stuff he comes out with, he's just brilliant. And the whole audience, you could tell, were enjoying that.
Yeah, very much so.
And also one of those gigs, I mean, I know a lot of people are a bit about this, but people singing at gigs, you know, people singing along with the songs, you know, some people frown on it, some people actively encourage it. This was a sing-along gig, wasn't it? Pretty much every song you could just hear around you, the audience singing along with it. You know, some songs more than others, obviously, but just a hugely interactive gig, and
we were very lucky because the people right directly to the left of us were obviously as big a fans as we were.
Yes,
and it was lovely because every now and again I would kind of look to my left and I'd catch like one of their eyes and we'd be singing and you'd get like a little recognition, a little bit of smile, and it was like lovely, really nice.
But also we were very lucky because we did have a show before the gig, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Because in front of us was the cast of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, very much so. What would appear to be maybe almost an homage to the fabulous book 50 Shades of Grey, which if you haven't read it, don't bother.
Yeah.
There was a guy in front of us, an urban beardsman, as I'm going to call him.
He was suited and booted and just looked like an absolute wanker, didn't he? And had this young sort of bit of arm candy with him, and she was draped all over him. He was obviously just loving it, and you know, would occasionally dive in for a massive snog and all this sort of thing. And we were just stood there going, "Dear God,
get a fucking room!"
It was just, you know, I mean, but this bloke,
I wouldn't have minded too much, but every time I got on the vinegar stroke, they'd stop. And I was like, if you're going to do it, just do it. You know?
Just get on with it. Just get it out and get it done.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I wasn't really masturbating at the gig. I wasn't. I was very, very well behaved.
Yes,
but I did give you some special gloves, didn't I? Just in case.
You did give me some white gloves.
Some beautiful white gloves.
But do you know what the funny thing was? About a quarter of the way through the gig, after about 4 or 5 songs, you turned to me and said something that I thought was absolutely lovely. And many people, well, pretty much all of our listeners, will have known you for quite a while.
Yeah.
And will know what a big drinking problem you had. You were a very, very heavy drinker.
Yeah.
And 4 or 5 songs in, you turned to me and you said, "What a great gig." And then you paused and just went, "I've never seen them sober before." And it was almost like for the first time you were truly enjoying the Bluetones for what they are, rather than through a haze of alcohol, which was brilliant. It was lovely.
That was it. It was a bit of a flashbulb moment for me. It was quite astonishing. I mean, I remember most of the gigs we've been to. I remember most of the times we've seen them play live. I certainly remember the previous gig we went to, because we went. Did we go 2 nights or?
We did both nights that they played. It wasn't consecutive nights, but it was 2 nights at Shepherd's Bush Empire, because basically they announced the London gig at Shepherd's Bush midway through the tour. But then, knowing that it was their farewell tour, they then decided to stick one on the end, so we went to both of those. Yes. Yeah,
well, it was quite an amazing moment when I think it was just after the Fountainhead, so it was a New Athens, I think, was playing, and I did just turn to you and say, "I've just realised in the 20 years we've been coming to see them, it's the first time I've seen them sober." And I think I also said to you something along the lines of the fact that I was genuinely enthralled by them, because I love watching musicians play, and I love watching musicians perform, no matter who they are. You know, anyone who can play an instrument or sing, or has got a great voice and a great stage presence is just enthralling to me. I love watching them.
Yeah.
But they were just so on point.
It was so tight.
And I think I compared them to sportsmen, because they were
top of their game.
They were at the very, very top of their game.
Which, as I say, considering this was their first tour and first time they'd done anything together for 4 years, you know, pretty much to the month. It was October 2011 was their last gig.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. But then they are just amazing musicians. I mean, when you consider that, you know, in terms of your Britpop, they survived that a lot longer than some other bands. I mean, they survived well into the 2000s.
Yeah.
In terms of creating music that people bought. They were a very good band, you know, musically and, like I say, singing wise across the board. They were probably not given the recognition that they deserved. And funny enough, one thing that I said to you beforehand was, I think very much their secret weapon is Adam Devlin, the guitarist. obviously you were saying that beforehand you were sort of learning some Bluetones riffs and sort of playing them yourself, but when you listen to their songs, I mean, the guitar is so intricate. I mean, you know, I know when people play live, they tend to sort of simplify
they'll pare it down a bit.
They're doing, and he was definitely doing that with the guitars, obviously within the live format, but you listen to any Bluetones track, you listen to any Bluetones album, and his guitar is something that carries each song through. And obviously, you know, a lot of people focus on Mark Morris's vocals, which are very unique.
Yeah. But
I would say Adam Devlin is just absolutely super, and a great tweeter as well. I mean, his account on Twitter, if anybody doesn't follow @AdIam with underscores in between each of those words, then you should do, because it's absolutely fucking hilarious.
He definitely had the cheekiest grin in the building. And every time because you could say, I mean, as a guitarist, you do have to concentrate on what you're doing, but he was looking up pretty much constantly, and you could just see him with a big kind of grin on his face, as if to say, I fucking love doing this.
Yeah.
God, I fucking love doing this.
Yeah.
What's the bass player's name?
Scott Morris.
Scott Morris.
And of course, he came out in his X-Wing pilot's
outfit.
Did
indeed.
And sort of gave it the big I am in front of the crowd, sort of arms there going, yeah, we'll check out these. Because, of course, he'd put a photo of himself on Twitter. That was what he wore to the Secret Cinema Star
Indeed,
Wars.
Yeah.
So, it was great to see him wearing that. It was very entertaining.
Proving that the only people that could afford to go to the Secret Cinema show of Empire Strikes Back are accomplished musicians, because it was so fucking expensive. Fucking yeah.
But also, one thing we were talking about beforehand was the fact that what I love is that Ed's the drummer.
Yeah.
His kit is so small, isn't it? It's almost like a jazz drummer setup rather than, you know, a big sort of rock or poppy drummer, because, you know, most people love these big kits, and he's very small around him, and it's all sort of done very underhand.
Yeah, and he's a very nonchalant drummer. He's kind of very loose with his hands. But I mean, for a 4-piece, I mean, well, technically a 5-piece, obviously, because they have a keyboard player as well. They make a lot of noise for only 4.5 guys. Yeah, they blew me away again, as I say. But I think special mention has got to go for the second track of the encore.
Yeah.
Which was just something that I just never expected at all.
Well, when they sort of first launched into it, it was kind of, you know, everybody was kind of, hang on, what's this? And there's that sort of slow recognition. You think, no, this can't be. And then, of course, they launched into it properly. It was like, Jesus Christ. And it was...
I Could Be So Good For You, the theme tune to Minder, which was sung by and written by Dennis Waltman.
Wrote the theme tune.
He wrote the theme tune and he sang the theme tune.
Yeah.
It was a bloody good cover.
It was so good, wasn't it? And it was hilarious. You could tell people were really enjoying it. And
there was a great moment about halfway through the cover version, the band kind of just thought, are we actually doing this?
Are we carrying on with this
now? I thought we were just doing like a couple of bars as a joke, and Mark Morris was like, no, come on, this is my moment.
But also, you could tell there were some bits, obviously get towards the end of the gig, that Mark's vocals he was having to stretch, so he actually went down and sung the second verse in a real sort of like gravelly.
I gotta do it, yeah. He did like that. Yeah, it was very, very good.
Absolutely,
very, very good. Yeah, I'd say there was definitely something for everyone set list wise. So I'll run through it real quick. For me, anyway, my highlights were third track in was Mudslide.
Yeah.
With my amazing realisation that I've listened to that song hundreds upon hundreds of times,
and you never knew
the drummer was the guy doing that. I thought it was a shaker, but he's actually doing it with his voice. But absolutely brilliant. Lovely version to Keep the Home Fires Burning.
Yeah.
And a really, really, really sweet version of Tiger Lily as well. The only one little letdown was one of my favourite tracks, which is Fast Boy, and the sound fucked up, didn't it?
I know, it was a shame. But the funny thing was that they could obviously still hear it properly. It was the amps that was feeding it out to us.
Yeah.
And so they were still going. You know, you could hear it, but it was muffled.
Yeah.
And they're still banging away. And then, of course, when the sound came back on, we all went, hey! Yeah. And they looked at us as if to go, what happened? What was all that about?
Fucking hell, it's only a middle eight.
Suddenly got a big cheer for a particular lyric or something. But highlights of it, I mean, I'm really glad that funny enough, you turned to me before the gig started, didn't you, and said, what do you reckon they're going to start with? I said...
As we always do at every gig we go to.
I said Bluetonic. They actually started with Are You Blue or Are You Blind, which was their first single, which of course never charted, but it's an absolute great track. Track 4, I think was 4 Day Weekend, which when they said this is 4 Day Weekend, I just lost my shit, because I absolutely loved that track. That's probably my favourite Bluetones track, as I say, years and years since I've heard them do that live. Yeah, they always finish with "If" these days, which is a great song to finish with. And of course, you were saying that people were still...
Yeah, I must say a little thank you to all the people who went to the Bluetones gig and all the people who ended up at Kentish Town Station after the Bluetones gig, because we all had a great sing-along. Literally everyone was singing "If." I say singing. Humming, because there is the lovely la 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 moment, which everyone was doing. Police were trying to get people to quieten down, but even the police were smiling.
They were having none of it.
But
another song I was really glad they played, because it was one of the few B-sides that they did play, and that was the third track of the encore, was "I Was a Teenage Jesus."
Yes.
Which, funny enough, that morning, my daughter gets quite upset whenever I go for a night out, because she thinks I'm the best thing since sliced bread. So she'll
learn.
Yeah, and indeed she will. Thank you for that. She was saying, "Oh, Daddy, I'm going to miss you tonight. Where are you going? You going to the comic convention again?" I said, "No, darling, no, I'm going to a gig. I'm going to see a band playing." She said, "Oh, who's that? Foo Fighters?" And I said, "No, darling, it's the Bluetones." And she said, "No, I don't know them." So I said, "Oh, I'll find a song." Now, she goes to a C of E school. Yeah. And so it's very God Squad and all about Jesus and that sort of thing. So I thought, oh no, I'll put on "I Was a Teenage Jesus," because it's actually having a bit of a poke and sort of taking a piss out of religion a bit. Yeah. But you can sort of remove that by just stopping it about 3 seconds before the end, when Mark goes, "Happy birthday, Jesus," and they all start laughing. So I played that to her, and then lo and behold, they played it and actually turned to you, and I said, "I played this to my kids in the car this morning." Amazing. But yeah, just in terms of delivering all the keynotes from the back catalogue, it was a fantastic gig, and one of those ones that you just wish it could go on forever. Yeah. And they seem genuinely pleased to be back together, and they seem to have sold out most of the venues they played. Yes, it's been a short tour. It was only about 8 or 9 dates, but I do hope they carry on. Yeah, I really do, because going to see them, it's hugely entertaining. It's a great night out. It's a great sing-song. It's fantastic music. And fun enough, you were saying that that's probably now beaten your Smashing Pumpkins record for most gigs you've been to. Yeah, most seeing an artist the most times. Yeah, I think they now are the artist I have seen play live the most. And, I mean, mine previously, probably to the last ones, was Foo Fighters, but now, I've definitely seen the Bluetones well over a dozen times. Yeah. Going back to sort of first time was 96, and we were sort of talking about some of the things that you were going, "Oh, Enzo came with us to the Forum," and I was saying, "No, that was Shepherd's Bush." And then we were talking about the Forum. "Oh no, that was the one where Shab fell asleep, or got pissed and fell asleep." And we were talking about all the old Bluetones gigs, and I've been to see them.
And there's been a fair few of them.
Yeah, Guildford a couple of times, and sort of building up as they sort of grew and grew the fan base. And
I'd definitely do it all again.
Absolutely, they are just a great band, and I would say if there is a quick hit of sorts to be had from this, it is check out some Bluetones albums. Yeah. Funnily enough, you chose Return to the Last Chance Saloon. My favourite is their first, Expecting to Fly, which is a great album. Obviously has their hit on it.
It does. You don't have to have the solution, I think it's called, isn't it?
You don't have to have the solution, you've got to understand the problem.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Love that one. Slight Return.
Yeah, Slight Return. Oh, I thought it was called You Don't Have to Have the Solution, You Don't Have to Understand the Problem. But just check out some Bluetones albums. The first 3 particularly, they constantly take the piss out of themselves by saying, "Oh yes," and of course we had 2 albums that no one bought and no one listened to, which of course were Luxembourg and then the Bluetones, which are very good albums, but certainly didn't have the commercial success of Expecting to Fly, Return to the Last Chance Saloon, and Science and Nature, which are just great albums. So give them a listen. I'm sure most of you out there are familiar with them, but if you're not, check out some of their stuff.
Familiarise yourself.
It is fantastic guitar-y pop, as I like to say, and a genre that I really do love is a bit of guitar-y pop.
Indeed. So thank you very much, the Bluetones, for coming back and doing it all again.
We salute you. Come again, please.
Yes.
Come again.
Yes.
Excellent. And now we shall move on to this week's main topic.
When they got the ball, they won't drop it. The Geek-Minded fools discuss the main topic.
Right, for this week's main topic, we wanted to talk about a TV show, a TV film, I guess, that was on a couple of weeks ago. But this is obviously the first time we've recorded since then. Mm-hmm. So it's our first opportunity to speak of it.
Yeah.
And it is The Gamechangers. which was a TV film, I think made by BBC Scotland, wasn't it?
Yeah.
About the whole foolery that came up. that came up about the game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
It did indeed.
Back in the day, and the whole hoo-ha with Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson, indeed, sir.
And obviously this is something that you mentioned in one of your monkey farms a while back. You mentioned that...
I think I said something like there's going to be a wizard in San Andreas.
That's right,
was
you did,
something along those lines, was it not?
And so, yeah, we haven't really spoken about it. We've kind of kept our feelings secret.
We have kept our tongues.
Indeed. Shall
I go first?
Yes, go on. Yeah. Because I sense something bubbling up.
Yeah, I just want to say, basically, next time that anyone has an idea to do a short movie of this type, then fucking don't. It was awful. It was the most painful fucking thing I've sat through in a long time, and I desperately wanted to enjoy this. It was one of my big loves is gaming, is computer gaming. One of my big loves is Grand Theft Auto. I've played every single GTA game religiously since the first one came out, even bunking off work for a week from when I worked at Our Price to actually go home and play the original game for a week. And that's what I've done ever since the GTA games have come out. I've always taken a week off when the new one comes out, and I will play it, and finish as much of it as I possibly can. So, I was really excited to see, let's see what the story of San Andreas was and how they made it. And maybe one day I'll get to see that story, but we fucking didn't see it here.
But I'm not sure what you were expecting.
Something well acted,
You don't think it was well acted?
No, I thought it was fucking awful.
See, because I don't think that...
Apart from Bill Paxton, I thought Bill Paxton did a good turn.
Looking at it, I don't think that the blame for this movie's failure can be laid at the feet of the actors. I thought that the actors did what they could do with what was presented in front of them. But unfortunately, as is so often the case of things we talk about, what was presented to them to perform was pretty shit. And
I'll agree with you on that. I mean, you are always the one who can talk me down off of that
the ledge,
the ledge of hate that I see. And I actually have said this to a few people before that I it's very black and white things for me. It's either shit or it's brilliant.
Absolutely, yes.
But you are the only one who can ever actually say, hang on a second though. So yeah, I do agree with you on that.
I am Mr. Grey area. Yes,
you are. You very much. You are Mr. Grey indeed. So for those of you who don't know, this basically followed the struggle of Sam Houser's legal feud against Jack Thompson, who was an American lawyer, who just really thought that the GTA series was just completely moralistically awful.
Yeah.
And also believed that...
Of course, Jack Thompson played by Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, who was a really good turn by Bill Paxton.
And Sam Houser played by Harry Potter.
By Harry Potter, indeed. Yes. The famous Harry Potter. With a beard.
Yes.
Which really,
with a big beard.
A big stuck-on beard.
With a big fuck-off beard.
I doubt he's grown that himself. It started off, actually, I thought, relatively all right until I realised what kind of route they were going with it. And the show opened with kind of the release of Vice City.
Well, the thing is, the show opened with some text saying...
Of course, yes.
Rockstar have not played any part in the making of this. We have changed some things in terms of when things actually happened, but also, added some stuff for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Which effectively means that the BBC started off by saying, look, not only is this a load of bollocks, but Rockstar are going to hate it. That was their disclaimer. And I think from then on, all bets are off, and therefore, you had to take everything that was shown and purportedly happened with a massive, massive grain of salt.
I mean, what I'd have liked to have seen would have been more a story about the creation of where they went after Vice City with San Andreas, which was kind of hinted at. But I think I spoke very... I mean, we really genuinely don't talk about these things before we come and podcast them at all. But there was one moment that I had to talk to you about on the phone because it blew me away so much.
Yes.
And it was the scene where they ended up in... I believe they were in Compton. They're supposed to be in Compton.
Yes.
Obviously,
basically downtown Los Angeles.
Downtown LA. Yeah. And you've got the Daniel Radcliffe character, Sam Houser, and a couple of other Rockstar employees.
And his crew. One of which was his brother.
Who's Dan Houser, I believe it is. They are in kind of the ghetto, as it were, and they're just...
they're also in the dodgiest looking alley that they could possibly have been taken to.
Yeah. And they're all dripping in gold.
Yeah.
And they've all got brand new kind of, your sportswear.
Yeah.
And if the ones that weren't wearing sportswear were wearing Rockstar branded clothing, and it's just like, you would all be shot.
Absolutely.
Within a fucking heartbeat.
One of them had an Indianapolis Colts football jersey on.
That's right.
So basically you're going to LA in a Colts jersey.
Do you know what?
Which would immediately get you shot.
Didn't even pick up on that, but obviously you being a sports fan, yeah, I didn't even fucking pick up on that. But it was just so ridiculous that they all of a sudden made friends with one.
And they all had cameras. They were all walking around with cameras, sort of filming stuff to try and get ideas for things. You know, as if, you know, to get the feel of a place, you actually have to go there in one of the most fucking dangerous places, dressed like a bunch of British tourists. Yeah. You know, it was fucking ridiculous.
And then there was that moment just going, well, yeah, these guys are, and they were being shown around, weren't they,
Yes.
by a guide.
By local.
They're Compton Sherpa, we'll
Indeed,
call him. And you know, he's explaining to these gangster guys who pull up in a car, who incidentally, that whole scene is very much, the way they get out of the car is very much based on a little part from San Andreas.
Oh, okay.
And they're kind of going, oh yeah, no, these guys, I'm just showing them around, they work for Rockstar, they make GTA, and like the moment they say, oh, they make GTA, it's like, really? Oh, you motherfuckers are my best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
All this shit. It's like,
I love that game. I'm always playing the game, aren't they? Tell them I'm always playing that game.
And it was just so stereotypically...
And clearly something that never happened, but was effectively there to show that these guys, at all levels, had some form of street cred.
Yeah.
But it was the most Route 1 ridiculous, in-your-face way of showing that. In a situation that, in every fucking time out of 100... they would just have got shot and killed.
Oh yeah, very
Simple
much.
as that,
And that's neither of us, you know, sitting here making stereotypes of our own by saying just because they're in there, you know, in that area, the gang culture, blah blah blah, they get shot. But I mean, that's just the fucking the raw truth of it. That's how it was.
Absolutely.
You know, then. So, yeah, as I say, I mean, yeah, that moment happened. Then there was another very, very, I thought, in quite poor taste scene, which depicted, I can't remember the chap's name, Trayvon, something or other, the young lad who was arrested for basically, well, offing 3 coppers and a dispatcher.
Indeed. Now, this was the first bit that I'll admit really pissed me off.
Yeah.
Because, God, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It wasn't Trayvon. It was somebody more. Devin Moore?
That sounds about right,
yes. Devin Moore, and he was shown playing GTA, and he was shown to almost, in playing it, go into a trance so that he didn't know what was going on. And then next time you saw him, he was sitting in a car that he had stolen, was arrested by 2 police, taken back to the station, where, as one of them was booking him in, he reached for the gun, grabbed it, and wouldn't answer any questions. They were talking to him, and he was like sat there in this trance, as if this game had hypnotised him, which is absolute bollocks. Yeah. No one is hypnotised by a game. A game might make you go, do you know what? I'm going to steal a car because of this game. A game might make you do that, but only if you're not fucking screwed right in the first place. Indeed. Okay, a game will not turn a normal, nice, innocent person into a car-stealing, cop-shooting thug. No. It doesn't fucking happen. No, really, and therefore, to show this guy as, you know, as a normal, innocent kid playing a game, suddenly going into a trance, stealing it, and then ending up shooting these 3 cops. I mean, yes, it was a tragedy, but this guy would have done that anyway. Anything could have been the trigger. It just so happened that he happened to mention the fact that he was playing, you know, what did he say? Life is a game.
Life is a game, everybody dies sometime.
And therefore, it's only because that's what I've been happening recently. That didn't make him do it. No. The fact that he was clearly the sort of person who would end up doing that made him do it. And so that angered me, the fact that they had him in this trance, you know, and they were talking to him and he wasn't, and he was sort of sat there sort of staring into space because, oh, this evil game. And that was the moment that I thought, who is this movie being pitched to? Who is the target audience? Because proper gamers will have switched this off by now. Proper gamers would have said, what the fuck, just stop. People who knew nothing about this might have been watching it, but if they were young, then what message were they getting from it? But I kind of start to feel more and more that this film was being made for Middle England, for your angry vocal minority who would say, yes, it's exactly what I thought. This Jack Thompson guy is an absolute hero. Because funny enough, the first half of the film, the Jack Thompson character was actually relatively sympathetic.
I thought it was painted very well.
I thought overly so compared to what he'd actually done. And yet suddenly halfway through, they had this twist in him where they revealed that he was actually a bit of a megalomaniac who would write to judges and write to this and write to that and say, you're wrong, you're evil, you've been corrupted, and was actually a complete nutjob. But for the first half, it was almost like the first half was them trying to almost put together too much, the side that Jack Thompson was actually right and that video games are evil. Because also I thought that Daniel Radcliffe as Sam Houser was very controlling and actually a nasty piece of work. And I thought that sort of neither character... It was almost like the two characters, they were trying to show them as being two sides of the same coin. And sort of both of them had very much had their faults, and it was their egos that got them both in this situation. Yeah. And I know a fair bit about the story. I can remember the whole hot coffee business, which again was completely misrepresented in...
We'll go on to that in a minute.
But I'm not aware of the bit between the two characters and the fact that I know that Jack Thompson was just some ultra religious thing who just wanted something to jump on the back of to ride. Did, and Sam Houser, wasn't this ultra nasty controlling person who would almost abuse the people who were around him, in as much as any other boss of a company would be. He was just somebody who had a product, and yes, people had to work long hours and people had to work hard and tough decisions had to be made, but that's business.
That's the games industry.
Well,
And the fact of the matter is, it seems to me that they painted a picture of Sam Houser that they wanted to paint.
Absolutely.
Sam and Dan Houser have famously stayed well the fuck out of the limelight because they have let their product speak for itself, and it is a fabulous product, regardless of what your tastes might be. But I don't think anyone can sit there and say, well, look, The French Connection is a great movie, but I can't buy into Grand Theft Auto because it's just too violent. They are two sides of the same thing, Things like movies like Colours, and the amount of movies that it riffs on and that it references. You can't be a fan of one and then say this is absolute, the most terrible product in the world. I know my point is a little bit loose there, but you kind of get what I'm saying. As I say, they completely and utterly drop the ball by having no information on someone doesn't give you the right to just make up what their character is.
Just randomly make stuff up and sell it purportedly as the truth.
As the truth, indeed, yeah. I mean, the other thing they did as well, a lot of the show took place in New York, and obviously Rockstar have got an office in New York. But to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that San Andreas wasn't built in New York; it was built in Scotland. That's where their main offices are. Also, as well, one of the most beautiful things happened, I think, about an hour after this had gone out on TV, where Rockstar put out that brilliant tweet, didn't they, saying, was Basil Brush not available? What the fuck is this shit? So they automatically, with their, knowing that there's no point in going down the legal route, they've just gone, this is just pish. This is absolute nonsense. And then slowly but surely, one by one, a very few of the devs, the developers who worked on the game itself, came out to say, well, here's some pictures of the actual office that we worked in, and it's just like a really boring grey office. It's like, we certainly didn't all walk around wearing Rockstar branded clothes. They made it look like fucking McDonald's for computer games.
They all had Rockstar t-shirts on. I mean, most of the time, Daniel Radcliffe seemed to have a Vice City t-shirt on, didn't he? He was always wearing a Vice City t-shirt. And you think you wouldn't do that. You're putting your own perceptions, which are so wildly inaccurate, into something, and as I say, selling it as purportedly being the truth, which is
it just completely and utterly missed the mark. I mean, it really did. I think the biggest problem with the show itself was what you touched on a second ago, and that was the whole hot coffee
business. Yeah,
I cannot tell you how much I don't really cringe that much at things, because I like to think I've seen a lot of different movies, a lot of different shows. I've seen things delivered in different ways, like The Office is always, that very cringy type of thing. But I have never ever cringed as much as I did watching him speaking to his PA about what he wanted in the game for the sex scene, because it just didn't sound like people don't talk like that.
This is it, and that's what I mean about the actors only being able to deliver the script that's put in front of them. And it was so hackneyed and so fake.
Good word. That's the word I was looking for. Hackneyed, yes.
But also, I am almost the antithesis of you. I've only ever played one Grand Theft Auto game in my life, and that was the first one on the SNES. And it was boring. And frankly, everybody said to me, why don't you play Grand Theft Auto? Yeah. And it's not because I think I would hate them and wouldn't enjoy playing them. It's simply because you have to give so much time to a Grand Theft Auto game. Yeah. And I don't game half as much as I'd love to these days, but whenever there's been a Grand Theft Auto game out, there's always been something else that also takes a lot of time that I've wanted to play more, and therefore I've just never got round to playing them. However, I know enough about what happens in them and the general stories, but also the background, and I can remember the whole hot coffee furore back in the day, and this wasn't it. Hot coffee wasn't just code that they accidentally left in there because it was, hot coffee was actually left in as a mini game, as an Easter egg for those people who they knew would be able to find it.
Yeah, the modders, basically.
Yeah, precisely. It wasn't, accidentally left in there because to take it out would be too hard and we decided not to put it in there. Yeah. It was deliberately left in there. They knew that it was there. They knew that it would be found.
Yeah.
And that was what the whole controversy was about. And this didn't sell it as that at all. I mean, even the name Hot Coffee supposedly came from the name the modder gave himself when he put it up on YouTube. And that isn't why it's called Hot Coffee at all.
Not the case. Not the case at all. It was riddled with inaccuracies, and Rockstar have made an official comment saying as much, just basically saying Gamechangers is full of inaccuracies and it misrepresents the real people that it portrays. And I think that's the biggest crime that they've committed with this piece. It's a massive misrepresentation of very, very, very talented people. Very, very dedicated people who changed the landscape of gaming forever. And I know that sounds like I'm being a little bit overly mushy, but they genuinely did. And just to touch very briefly on what you said earlier about the young lad Devon
Moore.
You're saying, gaming does not do that to you. It does not put you into a trance, and it genuinely doesn't. But you've just hit the nail on the head with your previous comment about time. That's all that gaming does to you. It just sucks your time away.
Absolutely.
It does not to create a zombie.
It doesn't make you do anything you would not have done before playing it.
Exactly.
Let's face it, the film ended by saying, how successful the game was and the fact that Grand Theft Auto 5 broke all records, not just gaming records, but entertainment records.
Made its money back on pre-orders alone.
Yeah, it said it made sort of 3.1 billion in its opening day or two or something.
Right, yeah.
Now, let's backtrack that figure. $3.1 billion worldwide, okay, means that a hell of a lot of people all over the globe bought that game, yeah? Do you remember, sort of within 3 or 4 weeks of that game coming out, do you remember when there was that massive spike in carjackings and prostitution murders and shootings all over the planet? Do you remember that happening?
No,
I don't fucking either. And yet, if it's the case that anybody sitting in front of this game will be made to do those things, then that would happen. If that many people were putting their bums down on their settee in front of their tellies and playing that game, that would happen. Yeah. No, it only happens to those people who will be prone to doing it anyway. Yes, Grand Theft Auto might have been the thing that pulled the trigger, but there was already a fucking bullet in that gun.
Very much so. Very much so.
But I will just state one more thing, and that is, I knew that I would hate this because they dropped an absolute bollock, because if they were serious about this film, what they would have done is at some point have Bill Paxton as Jack Thompson being interviewed by the media and saying to them, as far as Grand Theft Auto, it's game over, man. Game over.
You couldn't help yourself, did you? Couldn't help yourself. I'd like to take it upon myself and on behalf of Geek-Minded Fools to say to Dan and Sam Hauser, thank you for fucking all the awesome hard work and all the amazing ideas and all the brilliant characters and all the fabulous fucking hours you have robbed of me by giving me these amazing games.
Well, I'll tell you what, of course, the one game that it did fucking rob me of time massively was
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. Which I played and played the zombie add-on and finished it, got all did all the side quests, did everything. That absolutely sucked my time up, and so so it isn't just stuff about
carjackings and they corrupt police and drugs.
They can, yes, indeed, they can make games about anything.
I will say one more thing, okay, and that is, if the BBC wants to make this right, and I'm not saying this is something that needs to be done, but if the BBC want to make this right, give us a documentary. Give us a documentary on the making of the GTA series. And try your hardest to go and ask nicely the Hauser brothers, can we have an interview with you? Because there are millions of people out there who would be interested in knowing what the real story is.
But after
Because
this
wasn't
would
it.
you say yes to the BBC if you were Samuel Danhauser?
Very probably not.
Absolutely. I mean, someone out there, not the BBC, but someone out there should make that documentary, and I hope that they do get a chance to actually state their own piece, because this definitely wasn't it.
Well, Sam and Dan, if you want to make a documentary, then give us a shout. We'll happily interview you, and we'll happily make a documentary on your behalf.
We'll happily fuck it up for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one can fuck it up as much as the BBC.
Right, you done, sir?
I am indeed. No more credits.
Excellent stuff. Right, that's it for this episode then. So, for myself, Graham,
And myself, Scott.
thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.